In these set of videos, we'll try to understand how to write equation to represent a sinusoidal function. Question number 1. For the following data, determine an equation of a cosine function that satisfies the given data. So we are given x and y values. For x values of minus 480, minus 360, minus 240, minus 120, 0, 120 and 240. The y values are minus 5, minus 2.5, 0, minus 2.5, minus 5, minus 2.5, 0. Now analyze these set of values, or rather the data, and then try to provide a sinusoidal or a cosine function which could satisfy or which could represent this data. Right. Now, if you see what is the maximum and what is the minimum value, we have to check the y values for that, right? So we find that the maximum value here is 0, right? So maximum 0, and the minimum value given to us is minus 5, right? So from maximum and minimum value, we can always get the x's of equation, right? And then we can always get the amplitude, right? So let's find the x's of our equation. So that is c. So c is the x's, which is add them and divide by 2. 0 plus minus 5 divided by 2. And that gives us a value of minus 5 divided by 2, which is minus 2.5. Once we know c, we could find amplitude by difference of maximum and c also, right? So amplitude is c minus maximum, right? But it has to be absolute value, so amplitude is 2.5 for us. You could also find amplitude by subtracting maximum minus minimum and dividing by 2, right? So that is also a way. So let me write that down here. So you could also get it as maximum minus minimum divided by 2, right? That will also give you the same result, right? C we found by average, that is maximum plus minimum divided by 2, correct? So that is how we get these values. Now how about the time period? Now let us see when does the minimum happen. So minimum is at minus 480, right? That is minimum, right? Let me write down minimum here. And then the next minimum is minus 5 at 0, right? So that is also minimum. Now as you can see from here, what should be the time period? So we can say that the time period for us is indeed difference between the two minimum values, right? The x values difference, correct? So time period for us should be t equals to 0 minus 480, right? That is 480 degrees, correct? That's the time value. So from time period we can find the value of k, right? K is 360 degrees divided by 480 degrees, correct? So that is how we get k. We can divide both by 12, getting 3 over 4 as the value of k. Now we know all this. Now one more thing is left, and that is phase difference, right? Phase shift. Now phase shift you can get from, well, let's try to sketch this so that we understand what is going on here. The function is starting with minimum, right? So let me sketch it here. So function starts with a minimum and then it goes like this and then kind of repeats, right? Now as you can see, let me use a different ink now. Minimum is here, one minimum. The second one is right there, correct? So this minimum happens to be at minus 480, which is, and the second one is at 0 itself, right? So second one is at 0 itself, right? So what we can have, that means we have axis of symmetry here, I mean coordinate axis right there, and that is minus 5, and this 0 is the maximum, right? So 0 is here, correct? So that is how it is. So what we will do is we'll draw a coordinate plane here. So the coordinate plane is kind of like this. So that is x for us, this is y for us, and this is -5. And here we have a maximum value of 0. As you can see from here, the function actually starts from minimum. So if we are using a cosine function, we can start with phase shift of 180 degrees, right? Or reflection on x-axis, right? So we can write our function as y equals to minus a value of 2.5 cos of k value 3/4, right? X, right? Let's say x here, because minus we have already taken care of the phase shift, plus c, which is -2.5. So c basically is right there. That is our axis of symmetry, correct? So that is how the graph is. And this represents the equation for the graph. Let's review how we actually did all these things. Now it is important to note that we actually started with a general equation. General equation is y equals to a times. So since we started with cosine, let me write cosine, right? K x minus t plus c. Now to find the value of a, we took difference of maximum minimum divided by 2, got value of a as 2.5. To find c, we added maximum minimum divided by 2 and got the value of -2.5. To find k, we found the time period. Since two minimums, consecutive minimums, occur after 480 degrees, the time period is 480. So k is 360 divided by 480. So we got k value of 3/4. To find the phase shift, we can look for the maximum or minimum. In this case, we start with a minimum. Therefore, for a cosine function, a negative for a gives us starting with minimum, right? So that negative represents the phase shift of half the wave, right? So that is how we get our equations values, right? So all the parameters are calculated, plugged it in, and then we get the answer, which is y equals to -2.5 cos 3/5x minus 2.5. So that is how you can get equation for a periodic function representing the given data. I hope you appreciate it. Thank you.